Alright, so here we are with the Chapter 5, Day 1, Section 1. We're going to talk about fractions. So, we are of course going into much more complicated fractions, but I just want to make sure that we have a review here on what we were supposed to do with regular fractions. So, taking a look at this, perhaps you've heard some of these phrases. Either way, multiplying fractions is no big problem. It's top times top over bottom times bottom. So if we look over here, that means that we maybe rewrite this as just the top multiplying, so 1 times 3, and just the bottom multiplying, 2 times 4. And so we end up with 3 over 8, and of course you always reduce if you can, but there it is. Alright. The next one, dividing fractions, easy as pie. We flip the second and fraction, then multiply. So taking a look at what that means, here's the second fraction, and so we're going to take the first piece, multiply, and flip the second fraction. And now it's just multiplying as we did up above, so 1 times 4 on top, 2 times 3 on bottom, and so 4 over 6. But of course that can be divided by 2 on top and bottom. And so we get 2/3. Alright, next piece. Let's see. If adding or subtracting is your aim, the bottom numbers must be the same. So that's subtracting and adding, and so taking a look at what we have here, we have 1/2 and 3/4, and so 2 needs to become a 4. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom of this first fraction by 2 to end up with 2 over 4, and then adding that to 3 over 4. All we need to do then is add the top, and so it's 5, and then it's still 4 at the bottom. You don't make that 8. And that's because if you think of like measuring, if you have 2/4 cups and 3/4 cups, you don't all of a sudden have 5/8 cups, because that's actually smaller. So 5/4 cups. Alright. And then the next one is, let's see, 2 on bottom as well, and so it's the same fractions as before, so we need to multiply by 2 and get 2 over 4 minus 3 over 4, and so that ends up with negative 1 on top over 4. Alright, then moving on, we've got change the bottom using multiply or divide, but the same to the top must be applied. And so we've kind of been doing that. Because if you want an equivalent fraction to 1/2, there's actually a lot of them. But as long as you do some multiplying or dividing to the top, which in this case I'll try 5, why not? I get an equivalent fraction of 5/10. And of course, there are an infinite amount of those. But it happened as well in all of these previous ones. So I multiplied 2 on top and bottom, even though the bottom was what I wanted to change. Over here I divided to the top and the bottom, again, so that it was equivalent. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't work. And then this last piece here, it says, and don't forget to simplify before it's time to say goodbye. So, of course, 9/3 is not simplified. It's an improper fraction. You've got something big on top and bottom, but they're also both divisible by 3. So if they're both divisible by some of the same number, then we can go ahead and divide by that number, and we end up with 3 over 1, or of course just 3. So always reduce, common denominator for adding and subtracting, top times top over bottom times bottom, and then with dividing, you're actually changing it into multiplying. So those are literally the notes for today, because then your assignment is going to be moving on to actually applying this. So it's just a review of multiplying and dividing so that we kind of get into that habit of when you see that certain operation, what you should be doing.